What's doing, everybody? Today is Thursday, August 5th. Congressman Tim Burchett joins me on the podcast today. Also joining me is Susan Crabtree. Democrats flee Texas in a political showdown, and a grand jury will convene in the Russiagate hoax. I'm AlecLace. This is the AlecLace Show.
The American family is under attack. Parents are the underdog of this nation. Your children are being indoctrinated. That's right. Your children. They do not belong to the state. They do not belong to the school system. They belong to you, the parents, as a blessing from God our Father. So let's preserve, protect, and fight for the American family together. You're listening to the AlecLace Show. The future is family.
All right, welcome everybody to the AlecLace Show. I'm happy and honored, as always, to be here with you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching the broadcast as it streams, live on Rumble, please get down there, hit that follow button, and don't forget to share the broadcast with everybody in your network, in your neighborhood. Let's get as many people into that live broadcast chat room down there as possible. Thank you guys for tuning in. I got a great program for you today. Congressman Tim Burchett is going to be here. Also, investigative journalist Susan Crabtree. If you missed out last week, as this Obamagate, Russiagate hoax continues to heat up, trying to bring more people on that were directly involved and affected by this. Last week I had the great Roger Stone and George Papadopoulos. Both of them impacted their lives greatly, so kind of wanted to get their take on what was going on with it. So if you missed out on that, please flip it back and take a listen. One of the hot stories right now is this political showdown going on in Texas, where these Democrats have booked a flight on a multi-million-dollar private jet to get the hell out of Texas because they don't want to face the music of what's happening. Texas looking to redistrict in a way where it's going to pick up 5 seats, congressional seats for the House for the Republicans heading into the midterms, which would be huge. I mean, this would be a major deal for the Republicans. It would be a big blow to the Democrats. They know it. So they have beat feet and got the hell out of Texas to avoid the quorum that would convene to make this thing go down. And they, of all places they went to, was Illinois, which is the most gerrymandered state in the union, and trying to claim as, one of these do as I say, not as I do type of things, because they are the redistricting champions. That's exactly what they're doing. I remember when I had Tulsi Gabbard on last year or over the summer before the election, talking about the invasion of our country. One of the primary reasons for that was to count the illegals on the census so they can redistrict all these areas. They were strategically flying them to certain parts of the country specifically so they'd be counted with the census, and that was the game plan for them. And listen, it's about time we see the Republicans, and I want to hope that they see this true, because Attorney General Paxton had issued a warrant now for their civil arrests. Governor Abbott orders arrest of AWL Texas House Democrats after a warrant issued by the House Speaker. So they're asking, for these guys to come back, guys and gals to come back and settle this. But right now they're just playing looks like a theatrical game for the media. Oh my God, it's a fight. It's against democracy. You have Gavin Newsom shooting his mouth off now. Oh, I'm going to fight. Governor Hochul in New York says it's a war. So Democrats are going to seize this opportunity to play the victim. It's what they do best. That's what they're going to do right now. The fact is they're losers, and they are going to lose this battle because it is a legal right of what they are doing here in Texas to get this redistricting done. So it looks like they will, hopefully, when this is all said and done, pick up the 5 seats once these Democrats come back to the table here. But, they're going to grandstand. They love the political theater. That is what they do. We'll see if these warrants that have been issued now by Texas will have any effect whatsoever. And we'll see how that plays out. So I got Congressman Tim Burchett. I only have him for a few minutes. I'm going to have him on to talk about that. Also get into a little bit. One of the other big things that has happened here is we now have a grand jury in the Russiagate Obama hoax. So this was kind of big news that dropped yesterday. Attorney General Pam Bondi officially signed an order that directs an unnamed prosecutor to take evidence to a grand jury over the Russiagate. Now, why that's important is because it now gives them the subpoena power. It now gives them the ability to make indictments based on evidence. So this is actually moving the ball forward, which is something else that we wanted to see happen with this. We have been talking about it for a very long time, for many years. It was something that we all knew that was going on, that the Democrats set up President Donald Trump, spied on his campaign, used the Russia collusion hoax to undermine the will of his presidency, to undermine the will of the American voter, and we all want to see accountability. Now, is this, again, this is a political game. I think that Trump has every right to do this. I think the people want to see it because it was an injustice that was done, and people should be held accountable. Does this help the struggle for the midterms? I don't know. Is this something that is going to be, obviously tangible things are going to help the American people far more than seeing an indictment on President Obama that's really not going to go anywhere. I mean, we would like to hope that we could see some kind of indictment with some real meat in it, where you're going to see you see Brennan and you'll see Comey, and these people go to prison for what they did because it's what they deserve. For what they did, they should be in prison. But do we have faith that we're going to see that at the end of this drama? I don't know. So I think right now the main focus, too, for so many American people is continuing to light the economy up. Like, let's get these prices continuing to fall. They're going in the right direction. Let's keep it going. We know the stock market right now is firing all cylinders. You know the stock market is doing good. The best way you could tell is because the mainstream media ain't talking about it, right? CNN hasn't talked about the stock market in a long time. Same thing with MSNBC and all that. They couldn't help but talk about it in the very beginning of Trump's presidency when he started the tariffs, when he on Liberation Day, when Trump announced the tariffs and the stock market started to tank. The airways on CNN and MSNBC were plugged with the stock market coverage. They were covering it 24/7. Now they don't talk about it anymore because the stock market has been crushing it. So they don't talk about that anymore. So we need to see those kind of things happening right now, because it's the middle-class American working people that have been suffering in this country, and they're the ones that need the relief. And so, yes, we want to see Obama in handcuffs and indicted, and Brennan and Comey and all these characters that were there. We want to see that, yes. But we also want to put more money in our pocket, have more opportunities out here. That is the main thing. And so that needs to be the focus, I think, more so than anything. And you just seen Trump's tariffs brought in $26 or $29 billion just in the month of July. Now, if you compare that to last July, I think the numbers were somewhere between $6 billion and $7 billion that came in on tariffs. So this is $29 billion in the same month. It's not even close. So what President Donald Trump is doing is working. And so we are just going to begin to see the fruits of that labor as it all starts to play out. And those are good things. Also, too, we see, obviously the border has been shut down completely, which just goes to show that it was done intentionally. And again, one of those reasons was to redistrict so many of these congressional areas so that they can put more Democrat seats in them. But other too. I mean, they really, you have so many people. Another one of them was arrested the other day, and it's like for one of these illegals on a sex crime against a minor. And it's like the Democrats don't even highlight it. Like CNN don't even talk about it. So they try to pretend on one side of their mouth that Jeffrey Epstein, we want justice for children that were trafficked and harmed. And they don't even cover people that are getting arrested now that are either trafficking kids or sexually abusing kids. They don't even cover it. So if you cared so much, why don't you even cover it on your network when these are happening? And it's not like one or two guys they're getting. It's hundreds of these people that they're getting, and they don't cover any of it. So much so that at the White House, when I was there when they were doing this stuff, they put all those wanted captured posters out on the White House lawn so that CNN and MSNBC and them would have it in the background when people were doing the shots, doing the hits, because they never cover it. But they claim to, really care about it. One of the other things, here's a disgrace, was this Congresswoman, Delia Ramirez. She's down at a Mexican conference yesterday, and she's speaking in Spanish. So I won't play the video because it's it's not translated on the thing. But she's speaking at this conference, and what she says is, "I'm a proud Guatemalan, before I'm an American. Now, how in the world could you have a representative in Congress say something like that, so bold? And so I'm a Guatemalan first before I'm an American. I'm a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American. You're representing the United States. You're supposed to be a proud American. You're supposed to come here, and that's it. If you are a proud Guatemalan, you live in Guatemala. You don't live in the United States. You're a proud Guatemalan. You're a proud American. So the fact that you could still be a sitting congresswoman and say your allegiance is to another country, we've done something wrong in the vetting process here. This woman should be thrown right out of Congress. She should not be allowed to serve the people of the country. Go serve the people of Guatemala. How do you get away with making statements like that and still serve in Congress? It's a slap in the face. It's a reminder of the comments of you have an Ian Omar, who we know hates America. She once said, "Sleep in comfort, knowing that I am here to protect the interests of Somalia from inside the U.S. system." How do you have, these are people that hate the country. They have allegiance elsewhere. And so it makes you sick to see it. And it's, the Democrats just claim like, oh, no, it's loyalty to where you come from or some bullshit they would make up. But it's like, that's a slap in the face to the American people. But that's what we're dealing with here. And that's why we've lost complete faith in this entire thing. So I'm going to ask Congressman Tim Burchett about that. And we also have, what else we got? I only got a 10-minute hit with him. So I also want to talk about that bill to ban members of Congress from trading stocks, because that's another thing. How do these people allowed, the people that make the laws allowed to trade, and they're making millions of dollars, and they're better traders than the hot shots on the street, on Wall Street? So that's something that's got to go down. All right, so I got Tim Burchett. Obviously, he is the congressman from Tennessee, 2nd District. He's been doing it for quite a while here. I'm always honored to get him on the show when I get a chance. I haven't had him on in quite a while, so let's do it. Let's bring him on. After this, I got Susan Crabtree, investigative journalist. We're going to get into, so make sure you stick around. We are going to get into this whole story that she broke, which was a Secret Service, agents, which was mind-boggling. The guy's Secret Service trying to smuggle in his wife over to Scotland. So we're going to get into all that with Susan Crabtree. So make sure you stick around after this. Let's bring on my man, Congressman Tim Burchett.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm at the White House with my dad, and you're watching the AlecLace Show.
You're listening to the AlecLace Show. The future is family.
All right, joining me now, Congressman Tim Burchett. Welcome back to the AlecLace Show.
Thanks for having me on, brother. Really appreciate it.
Well, I'm honored to have you back. Listen, the Democrats in Texas took it on the lam here because they didn't get their way. It's inevitable that this redistricting is going to happen in Texas. We should be able to pick up 5 seats. What's your response to the way that the Democrats are handling this and fleeing to the most gerrymandered state in the union?
Well, elections have consequences, and this isn't the first time they've done this. They did this once before, but I would question the ethics of it. They flew on a very expensive private jet at somebody's expense, obviously, probably not taxpayers, but somebody's paying for this. And I would dig into that first. I would find out who's responsible for that. I think that's very suspect and probably illegal. But it's not the Texas way. The Texas way is you stay and fight. Being from Tennessee, we sent a bunch of Tennesseans down there and they died at the Alamo. So I know all about it. But it's just the crooked nature of politics today. You don't accept the consequences. And so, that is a perfect analogy of where society is and why young people act the way they do today. They don't get their way and they just pick up their toys and go somewhere, go home. And that's exactly what they've done. I suspect if it was a bunch of Republicans, the national media would be hounding them.
Yeah. So what do you think do you think they're using this as like it's like a political op? Is that what they're doing here? Is this the game that they're going to play for the media? Is that the whole story here?
I think so. And they're setting the tone for the rest of the country. There's going to be other redistricting. When you have numbers shift, that's what I've been redistricted before, and I was in the state legislature. But it's and it is a political process. The courts have ruled overwhelmingly, they will not step in on these because it is a political process, and that's the way it is. They violate the Constitution somehow, but I mean, look at all over it. What's really crazy is you go from a really a non-gerrymandered state like Texas to a gerrymandered that everybody knows Illinois. I mean, Chicago, goodness gracious, they threw the election for Kennedy against Nixon, all the dead people voting that year. That was a mob orchestrated deal, and everybody knew it. And you just see this time and time again. The left is lost their barometer. Well, case in point, the biggest story they had about a month ago, if you remember, was the guy running for the mayor of New York. I can't even remember his name. Everybody said, "Oh, you're a Marxist. You're a communist." And he goes, "Oh no, I'm not a Marxist. I'm a socialist." And that was their running point. That was the point they thought they were going to capitalize on, and it did not go as they planned. And that's why everything else they're just throwing out as just trying to obstruct and divert.
Yeah, that's that Zoran Mamdani. That's the guy that wants to defund the police, disarm the civilians, and let lunatics run free on the streets. So that should be a beautiful thing to watch go down. But also, too, the Democrats are the ones that open the border up, and I would argue for the main purpose of being able to redistrict. I mean, that seems to be what their whole game plan was. That was their master plan. And I guess now all of a sudden they seem to be against that. But I mean, that seems like their whole play was to flood this country with these illegals, strategically put them in these places specifically to redistrict.
Yeah. And you have one Democrat, a lady, I believe she's in California, just basically said, if you're here, if you're a migrant or illegal or what have you, please come to my district. I need your numbers. And that's exactly what they're doing. That's why they're so much against Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill that I've signed on to, that, to redo the census, start counting legals, not illegals. And the Democrats have blocked that at every turn. Every time we tried to pass it. Can you imagine that? They're wanting to get services and their allotment, so to speak, due to the size of their illegal population.
Yeah. So even if you have it where illegals can't vote, which we know we've had cases where they are doing that, if they can't vote, the purpose is to count them in the census to redistrict. So the whole thing is, I wanted to get your take on this, Congressman. This Democrat Congresswoman, Dalia Ramirez, is down in Mexico, and her comments that she makes at this Spanish conference are, "I'm a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American." What's your take on that?
You can't have dual citizenship. We need to get that changed in the law. I feel like there's several members that have dual citizenship and they have an allegiance to another country. First and foremost, your allegiance should be the United States of America. And anything other than that, I think, is criminal, and you're not fit to serve.
I mean, it doesn't seem like that's much to ask, right? I mean, that's basic. I mean, we're not looking for too much here. You want to serve the country. You want to be loyal to this country and this country only. I don't understand why we have people that are, we have Ian Omar, who once said she's here to represent Somalia from inside the U.S. system. It's like, so who are you representing here?
Absolutely. And, and the liberal mantra on all this is that they're going to come and assimilate. They're not assimilating. They're segregating. And there's some of the most segregated areas in the largest population of Muslims outside of the Middle East I believe is in Michigan.
Yeah, unbelievable. Let me get your take here now, because we have a grand jury now to meet with the Russiagate, which is big. This is what needed to happen. I know we want to have, the oversight. We want to have, some of these questions be answered. But now we have a grand jury that meets where we could get some real results here, maybe some indictments finally. What's your take here on the DOJ finally putting together this grand jury?
It's long overdue. A grand jury will take a little bit of time. I suspect some people are sweating, and they should be. They better lawyer up, because this goes to the highest levels of government that tried to literally thwart and overthrow a sitting president or make it so he could not win. And this was orchestrated at the highest levels of government with your tax dollars. But the deep state is real. Let's just call it what it is. It is real. And the trouble you've got is it's so many layers thick at some of these big agencies that it's really hard to get to. That's why I like the whole idea of firing everybody and then rehiring them. But, when you have secret agents and things like that and foreign countries, that's a little difficult to do. But I think there needs to clearly be more oversight. And I think you're seeing that under President Trump.
Do you think we get actual indictments here? Do you think we get some results? Do we get some accountability finally after all these years since the Russia hoax? Do you think we finally get it?
I think we will, but what you're going to see is the media will act like this is going on forever, and that it's just dragging, just to try to push us towards another bright, shiny object down the road somewhere else. And I think America needs to pay close attention to this and keep this on the front burners every day till we draw the conclusion.
Yeah, well said. Last thing, you sponsored this bill to ban members of Congress from trading stocks. It looks like this may happen now in the fall. It looked like it was maybe dead for a minute. Now it looks like it's back to. Is it possible still on the table here that we're going to be able to ban members of Congress? I think that's a basic thing all American people want to see, so we know we can trust our Congress people again.
Yeah, they're shorting stocks. I mean, look at the site Unusual Whales. It lists the top 100 folks in it, and oddly enough, Pelosi's not even in the top 10. And so I think you need to pay close attention to that. We have a situation, I think, where members have traded stocks on information. If you look at the when we gave our missile defense system to Ukraine, and then and we had to replenish ours with a multi-billion-dollar no-bid contract. Members of both parties ended up buying that stock in those companies and own stock in those companies. So I think that it's clear what's going on. I think America's on to us. Will we pass anything? That remains to be seen. I have my doubts. They'll try to pull some stunt on us, but President Trump supports it, oddly enough. And this just affects our branch of government. It just affects Congress. So I would hope that we could get some guts and pass this thing.
I think the American people need it because we've lost faith in so many of these industries. We lost faith in the medical industry because of the COVID. We lost faith in the pharmaceutical industry. We lost faith in all these things. We need to believe in this as much as we can, and I think that would be a great way to start doing it. If we know you guys can't be on the inside skinny and making these stock deals like Warren Buffett's.
Yeah, I agree. More people have played professional baseball than have been in the United States Congress. I think we ought to treat it as the honor that it should be. I don't like the term servant leadership. That's kind of one of those groups that they put together phrases that we use. But you need to have a servant's heart. We make $170,000 a year. That seems to be plenty. That's plenty for me. I would hope it'd be for others.
Yeah, nothing to sneeze at. All right, my time is up. Congressman Tim Burchett, always an honor. Love to get you back on down the line. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you, brother. I see the pictures behind you. A lot more folks have been on since I was on the first time, so it looks like you're coming on. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. I got you on there somewhere. I should have rotated it for you, but you're on the board.
That's all right. Keep me out front because sex sells.
All right, you got it. Thank you, Congressman. All right, grateful to have Congressman Tim Burchett back on the podcast. What you guys think about the interview? Hit me with a comment down below. Honored to get him back on the show. Wish we had more time with him, but time is tight. Grateful to get what I can. You get what you get. You don't get upset. So glad to have him on, and we'll take it. And it is true that we at the last piece there, I do think that having members of Congress trading stocks, somehow that should be illegal. I don't understand how that's even a thing that you can do that because when you're the ones responsible for making the laws, getting the information, doing these oversights, having all these committees, you know the inside skinny on what's going on. So either you or you're farming it out like Pelosi to her husband. Oh, no, my husband, he's the magical stock picker. Yeah, well, where do you think he's getting the information from? So it's like you and your spouse should not be allowed to be trading stocks if you are a representative of the United States Congress. And it just shows that the proof is in the bank accounts. I mean, that's where the proof is. These people are coming in, like Congressman said, $170,000 a year job, and they're worth $100 million. They're worth $50 million. How it's like, come on. How would just all of a sudden, you get into Congress and you become a genius at the stock market? Everyone knows it's a joke. So that should be automatic. And that's why I say we lost faith in all of these institutions. We lost faith in the Food and Drug Administration, right? Here's RFK Jr. finally getting this stuff out of our food. We've been being poisoned on purpose. And we don't hold anybody accountable for that. We're just we're gonna take the poisonous dyes and the poisonous stuff out of the food now. Well, who put it in? Why'd they allow us to eat it? It's never any accountability. Same thing with these people in Congress. They're trading stocks. You're putting money in a 401k that's going to sit there for 30 years. You can't touch it till you're 63 years old. You have a mutual fund. You're trying to set yourself up for the future, for retirement. These are guys going in. They're banging out stock. They're like sharks, right? They're wolves of Wall Street. Every one of them. All of a sudden, and it's like, man, they're making hundreds of millions of dollars between all of them people. And you're sitting here hoping that your 401k will be there when you're 63 years old. And these people are getting it right now and getting hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. So to me, that's a disgrace. Anyway, I do think that as I said, we have the grand jury that'll meet, which will be important for the Russiagate piece of this. And what else we hit on? Yeah, these losers out there in Texas that took their ball and went home, or actually went to another state. I would be curious to see who funded that trip. That would be interesting to see. If it was the taxpayers, that'd be a big problem. But they flew on this private jet that costs, like, I think, whatever it is. And again, that's what they're saying. These guys are all climate change people. They're flying on private jets. Save the country. Take the bus. But no, that's not what they did. They got the hell out of Dodge as fast as possible. So, again, grateful to Tim Burchett for jumping on the show here. I'm going to turn our attention now. I got Susan Crabtree. She's the national political correspondent for Real Clear Politics. She's an award-winning investigative journalist. She's the author of the book Fool's Gold. I'll put the link down there in the description below. This was Fool's Gold, the radicals, con artists, and traitors who killed the California dream and now threaten us all. So, she's a California girl out there. She knows a little bit about the con man known as Gavin Newsom. So we're going to get into that. But what's interesting here is with the Secret Service, and she broke this story at the end of last week there, when Trump made his trip to Scotland. He had a Secret Service agent that was trying to smuggle his wife onto a plane to get her over there. And so, it kind of interesting. Like it's wild to see that's happening, but you wonder what else is going on in this. Is this a normal practice for these Secret Service people? So, and again, now we're going to get more into what else is going on. Is that they told us that we're not allowed to see the evidence of the Ryan Routh or the Ryan Ruth, the second guy that tried to assassinate President Donald Trump, and the Thomas Matthew Crooks. We're not allowed to see because it's a national security threat. So we're not allowed to see this information about them. And it's like, that to me is a big red flag. And now I don't know why they would do that, but this it brings it back to also too the Secret Service director, the Kim Cheadle. She resigned in disgrace. I mean, she should have been fired that night. But now they tried to give her back her clearance. And, luckily she doesn't have it, I don't believe. But it's like, how does that happen? So there's a lot of problems going on, I think, within this Secret Service that we don't really know about. Some of them we do because they're being brought to light by these investigative journalists like Susan Crabtree. Otherwise, we'd be in the dark about this stuff. But it's important, and I think, we all want answers to these questions about Trump's assassination attempt, the first one. The other guy, the guy was a shady character. What's his story? He's waiting outside Trump's golf course for hours. So a lot of answers that we need, a lot of questions that we have about what's going on with the Secret Service. And, of course, Trump is in a position where these guys protect his life. He's got to, award them and applaud them. But we, the people, got to hold them accountable because there's something rotten in Denmark when it comes to the Secret Service here. And people like Susan Crabtree get to the bottom of it. Grateful to get her on. Again, Susan Crabtree, I got the link to her Twitter bio down there in the description below. Her book is Fool's Gold. The radicals, con artists, and traitors who killed the California dream and now threaten us all. Let's bring her on the show.
You're listening to the AlecLace Show. The future is family.
All right, joining me now, Susan Crabtree. Welcome to the AlecLace Show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Alec. It's great to be on with you.
It's an honor to have you here. I know you had broke this story, and it seems like a lot of things with the Secret Service has really gone downhill here lately. But this one was kind of crazy with the Secret Service agent smuggling his wife onto one of the planes that was following the president out to Scotland. So, where did you first get wind of this story, and how did it all play out?
I was trying to take vacation myself, Alec, and I was coming back from vacation. I was about to get on my plane, and my plane was on the tarmac, actually. And I was getting inundated by, on the way to the airport, all kinds of Secret Service agents, sources in the Secret Service community telling me that they were outraged about the situation, that this agent tried to get his wife on board with him. His wife was an Air Force employee. I understand she was a staff sergeant or is a staff sergeant. And so she got on to join Base Andrews. They were coming from Texas. They got all the way on an Air Force plane to join Base Andrews. And then they tried to get into the car plane. It's called a car plane. That's what Secret Service parlance, but it's a C-17. And to take off with all the other agents, she even received the country briefing that they get when they go before they go into anywhere when they're traveling internationally. And then finally, someone, and it's still unclear because no one's being forthcoming, but I believe it was an Air Force person, a supervisor, said, absolutely not. You're not on the manifest. It's not happening. This is not kosher. So yeah, it's been funny because Trump was asked about it on Air Force One. He had a little bit, I think, a misunderstanding about it, but he said, this is very odd. This is very weird. And people have since said this is a reason why we need to sort of have a reboot with the Secret Service. We need to check in with them and see how these reforms are going because Trump's life is at stake, and so is our continuity of government.
And I think that's the key to this is that no matter how small of an infraction this is, it's like one of those things where you're at the top level of security. It's how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're going to let things like that slip at the lower level, it only means that there's problems at the top level. We're seeing that now where they almost gave back Director Cheadle her clearance, and this is a woman who lied before Congress and still hasn't faced anything for that. Like if I did that, I'm in prison. She did that blatantly, and she was it was really a disgrace and an insult to the American people to come out and say we couldn't have a guy on there because it was a sloped roof. I mean, that was one of the dumbest answers I think I ever heard from anybody in any type of law enforcement. But it shows also now, that's a major problem where she almost got back her credentials.
Yeah, that was another story I broke this past week. I've been working on it for 2 weeks, but it's deeply concerning, again, that this was happening. And I'm told by sources, well-placed sources around the Secret Service community, that Sean Curran, the director who was handpicked by Donald Trump, approved and certainly knew about this. That she was going to get her security clearance renewed. And this is something that they do as a courtesy. They've been doing it for years. Brennan, Comey, all of these guys at the intelligence agencies, they just automatically get this security clearance renewed. And that allows them to get really lucrative jobs and land cable TV talk show gigs and all kinds of really good things for themselves, but it's not doing anything, Zippo, for the American taxpayer. So I didn't know that the Secret Service engaged in this too until these sources came to me. And I called Congress when I heard about this because people were outraged in the Secret Service who had to do this kind of the work to do her background checks. And they said, basically they were in disbelief. And so I talked to Senator Johnson, and he was one of the people who led the investigations last year as chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, a ranking member. And then he's now the chairman of the permanent subcommittee on investigations. And so he's very aggressive with the Secret Service. So he said, this shouldn't be happening. I asked a lot of senators, and he was one of the only ones who would say anything about it. So I give him credit for that. But I told the Secret Service, and strangely enough, that very same day, they informed Johnson's office that it was no longer happening.
Well, thank God for that. And I know that, he has Sean Curran now, the director of the Secret Service. And it just seems like that day that happened, it almost seems like everybody involved with that in my opinion, should have been eliminated from Secret Service, the detail, or it should have been out of there because it was such a colossal failure that happened. And now we get also in the last piece on the Secret Service, or this story, is the DOJ evidence now against Ryan Ralph is now sealed. It's because it's a national security threat. They could basically say that about anything. Once they say, oh, it's a national security threat, they can stop you from finding out. But it's like so many people want to know, like, what happened that day in Butler. We have no idea. Like, we find out more about these, like the guy that did the shooting the other day in New York City. We found out more about him in 24 hours than we know about Crooks, or we know about the other guy, Ryan Rowell. So what is your take on them not giving us the skinny on that?
Yeah, I was outraged when I saw that because, Thomas Crooks, I thought with the new in leadership at the FBI, Dan Bunge, I used to go on his show quite a bit. I always had, held him in high esteem, but we're not getting the information on Thomas Crooks. Dan says that in an interview, as you know, with Fox News, said, he was a lone actor. But just, I always say, even with the Epstein information, show not tell. You can't just expect us, after all of this concern and outpouring of deep concern among the American people about Trump's life after these two incidents last year, that, oh, never mind, trust us. Trust us that we got this. And no, we want to know why you think that. So we want the evidence of how you came to your conclusion. And now we know that, now we're saying that Ryan Ruth, who we had actually know much more about, but he still remains this very strange character with ties to Ukraine, in Afghanistan, all kinds of bizarre. He lives in Hawaii. He's a bizarre individual. And I want, people rightly want to know if there were co-conspirators and who they are. And, we can't, as reporters, pull the string if they're not letting us in the federal government. They're keeping everything behind sealed documents and closed doors. So it's frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating because, yes, I report on Secret Service failures that day in Butler, and there were many, and there needs to be serious reform. But the reason behind the assassination attempts, they've never provided the motive for either one other than just hatred for Trump or mental illness. So, there's so much more we need to know.
And it just kind of seems like they're just letting the story die and fizzle away because, the news cycle moves so quick and there's so many other stories, so they can bury it deep. But people are still, I remember going back to Butler to the rally that Trump was at when he returned, which I thought was pretty incredible, to go right back to the scene of the crime, stand right in the same place, which was pretty, but to see it in person, to go and look at the building, look at the roof, see how far away it was. And it's just amazing to think that some kid 20 years old would be able to get on top of the roof with a clear line of sight with a rifle in broad daylight. It just seemed almost like you would think that that'd be impossible, and it all happened, and it failed in so many different ways that if that had been an actual assassin, like an actual professional that day, Trump wouldn't have had a chance, because it was like so simple for them to do. And it's like, could it really be that easy?
Yeah, that's what's deeply concerning. This 20-year-old Thomas Crooks he knew exactly which building did not have anybody on the top, because he had a drone up in the air, and the Secret Service can get their drone act together that day. They were calling tech support for an hour. I mean, this is unfathomable that our elite Secret Service, this once vaunted organization, is falling apart at the seams. And I am particularly concerned about the lack of congressional oversight since Sean Curran took the helm, because, it's Donald Trump's guy, we can't provide the oversight. No, they need to be more forthcoming at the Secret Service. They should have multiple interviews back and forth, a press conference about the reforms. They just issued a press release listing a couple different reforms on the anniversary of Butler, but they didn't answer my questions. Several of my questions about retention problems. How is the retention going? How's the DEI going? Because there are people that have come forward, Secret Service agents that are on the job, saying DEI played a huge role in this. And Senator Johnson has asked the FBI for more information about Thomas Crooks. And I checked in with them last week. There's been no information forthcoming so far. Now, the FBI is incredibly busy, as we know. They've got a lot on their plate. But, this is an outstanding question that I won't let go. And I don't think Senator Johnson is one of the only people in Congress that is really hitting hard on this.
And I do think that it last on this is I think it does put Trump in a bit of a pickle there because he can't come out and like slam current Secret Service. These are the people responsible for protecting his life right now. So the last thing he wants to do is kind of put that relationship on ice. I would imagine, like by calling out problems within the Secret Service, he's going to do nothing but applaud their work. They're great people, but they are beholden to us, the taxpayers. We're the ones paying their salary. We deserve the right to know what the heck is going on. We see obvious failures and no accountability. And it's like, well, why is this allowed to just continue? And no one's ever, and that's the most frustrating thing, Susan, I think with all of this stuff, whether it be with the Epstein or whether it be with the Obama collusion or all this other stuff, is we at this side of it never see any accountability. We never get to the point where we see this is exactly what happened. Here is the arrest. Here's the handcuffs. Here's the conviction. There the guy goes or girl goes to prison. We never get that at the end of any of these things.
Yeah, that's what's deeply concerning. And we saw that with the butler, the people that got suspended only got suspended for 10 to 42 days. And then their supervisors that were supposed to provide the layer of oversight to these more inexperienced agents, they didn't do their job, but they got off scot-free.
Yeah.
And it's to me, 10 to 42 days is not what Helen Comparatori deserves and what Donald Trump deserves in terms of discipline. That is a slap on the wrist, and they're going to come back and they're going to advance in their careers. They're staying at the Secret Service. 0 people got fired, and the supervisors got promotions. And that's deeply, deeply troubling because the supervisors didn't also ask how that person was going to be positioned on the roof, the local law enforcement. They weren't positioned on the roof. So it is, I just don't understand. I really don't understand the lack of congressional oversight. Now, we had Senator Rand Paul come out with a blistering report, but we don't have any hearings. There's been no hearings. Sean Kern's not being called up to Congress to testify. And I think that's the only time you get real answers is when there's public exposure to this.
Yeah, they got to shine the light on it, right? To disinfect into it. But I just, it's frustrating for regular people out here because we know that in the real world, if we do this, we're out of a job. Like I work for the railroad full time. That's my full time gig. I mean, and if I do something that caused a train crash and it was I'm number one, I'm out of service right away. And if it deems it's my fault, I'm gone. I'm not going to be promoted to the next level. You know what I mean? So it's like in the real world, it doesn't work this way. So when we see the cover ups of it going on, it just looks all shady to us. Let me switch over here to Gavin Newsom. I know you got the book Fool's Gold. Gavin Newsom is obviously making a play here. He's already in campaign mode for 2028. I mean, that seems obvious to me, the way that he's angling these things. But it seems like he's doing it with either blind knowledge that the fact that his entire state is a failure, someone who promised to have homelessness cured like 30 years ago in a 10-year plan has failed the state miserably. And now it's like he seems to pop up on every single issue to be right there front and center. So what's your take on what's going on right now over in California?
Oh, so much to go through about the state that I love and absolutely I grew up in, and it was a wonderful place to grow up in. Ronald Reagan was governor, then president when I was a kid in the 80s. And I wrote a whole book about it because I'm so deeply troubled by this. You have so many things going on in California now. Gavin Newsom is going to do tit for tat with this congressional redistricting. He's spending $200 million on a special election to try to say, okay, if Texas is going to redistrict and they're having that controversy there, then I'm going to counterbalance it because California has so many seats, congressional seats, and it'll affect the midterms. And so he says, if Texas redistricts that so that it benefits Republicans, we're going to do it so it benefits Democrats. As a conservative in this state, that is only disenfranchising me even more because there are so few seats already it's gerrymandered already in California. That one party system here is controlling everything that goes on and in Sacramento. And you have terrible legislation coming out. Like just recently, you have this AB 495, and it allows people to take over children just by signing a document saying they want to be their mentor and they want to basically be their legal person that is in charge of these kids. And they don't require any ID. I mean, this is going on in California because there's lots of going on in terms of the gender issues in California at the schools and the indoctrination. And there's these unicorn families that if you don't support your child's gender transition that they are keeping secret from you at the school, they're not allowed to tell you as parents, the administrators and the teachers, they can just take your child and put them in a unicorn family with these trans support service groups organizing the whole thing. And it's deeply, deeply troubling. So this is the Gavin Newsom worldview that he's exporting. He wants to export to the rest of the country. His wife does these gender documentary films, and she actually produces these films and charges to screen them in schools all over this nation, and has done so in 5,000 schools so far, these gender justice films that advocate for trans ideology. Then he, on the left, and then on the other side of his mouth, he says it's deeply unfair that there's men and women's sports and boys and girls sports. He is not, he just thinks he can podcast his way to the presidency. And, I think people need to wake up. California has gone completely down the drain and people are leaving in droves. And it's become this neo-feudal society that only the elite moneyed interests can survive in California and make a way. It's a problem, and I don't think most states want it exported to a city near them.
And I just wonder if it's even, salvageable at this point. It just seems like it's so far gone past the point of return. I mean, even what you're talking about there, I'm in Jersey here, the communist state of Jersey. And we had the same issue where if you didn't, we had schools that were suing because they had that same rule where you're not allowed to tell the parents. Like teachers were not required to tell the parents that their kid wanted to change their gender. And school districts that weren't complying with that were actually getting sued because of it. And but that issue, it seems like, and this is the thing that doesn't make any sense, is that it seems like for 2028, they're gearing to run on all of the issues that failed them in the 2024 election. And I can't figure out why they think now all of a sudden people are going to want to go back to where they were, that they've just voted out of. And then the gender thing seems to be a big one. I mean, that's like a 90, they say 90-10. I think it's more like a 99-1 issue. Parents don't want that, but they seem to still think it's in play. And I can't figure out why.
Yeah, the same thing with the sanctuary cities and defunding ICE and the police. We've been down this road before. They thought that didn't work for them in the 2020. Well, they worked for, I guess, President Biden, but it didn't work for congressional seats in the 2020 elections and before that. So why are we returning to that nonsense? California has so many problems that we have the highest costs for gas, electric, our utilities, our insurance. You can't even count on your government in a fire to have prepared properly. It's some gross mismanagement. Now we have $100 million from charitable organizations missing that never went to the fire victims. And you have to have an investigation of your own charity to figure out why that took place. It's a mess in California, and he is just the slick politician that has never had had to perform to get where he's been. Everything, you can read it in my book, everything has been given to him on a silver platter fueled by Getty oil money, interestingly enough. And he thinks he can just be performative. He doesn't have to actually succeed in any shape or form and help out his state. People are upset in California that he's running for president when our state continues to fail us. And I think that's a huge message that people need to understand. If the Democrats have such a weak bench that they're willing to just support him because he has the look and feel he's a good looking man who is a slick talker and will fight Donald Trump, I think that's horrible. And they really need to know what's going on in California, that he's responsible for the terrible crime spikes we've had here. He's responsible for the homelessness and the $24 billion in missing money. He's responsible for the COVID failures and the Orwellian state that we had to live under during COVID, and his hypocrisy about masking. It's just, it's somebody that has so much chutzpah that you can't even believe that he thinks he can run after such failures.
But he is that typical politician. I mean, he looks like the evil villain in like one of these political movies. Like that's how he is. And he is well polished. He's well spoken. Like when it comes to these things, he knows how to misdirect and redirect all these things. And he's a polished politician. That is exactly the type of guy we got away from when we went with Donald Trump, because it was a guy that was outside of that box. That's all we ever got were guys like Gavin Newsom, and we don't want that anymore. And it seems like he thinks that, again, just like people are going to want to go back into these gender issues or back to opening up the border, they think we want to go back to a slick talking politician. And I don't think the people want that. We want more realism. We want more people like Donald Trump. The only issue is that not many people in the world can do what Donald Trump did and withstand the amount of arrows that came at him. Like everyone's like, oh, we'll get another regular guy in there. No other regular guy that I know could put up with what they threw at Donald Trump and still keep moving forward. I mean, Donald Trump's an anomaly when it comes to that, but that is what we want to see. We want to see regular guys that come from the real world representing us in Washington. That's not what we're getting, except when you get guys that are on the outside. Gavin Newsom just represents everything that we wanted to vote against when it came to Trump first on the scene.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. My book goes into in depth about how he sold out California to the Chinese, and he actually vetoed, even though legislature is completely controlled by Democrats, it's a supermajority. They passed a law saying that the Chinese shouldn't be allowed to take over, to buy land, agricultural land in California. He vetoed that. Nobody provided any news coverage of that, except for it's now in our book. You'll see all these different things that he's beholden to himself, and he thinks that he can just jump into the White House because of the White House race, because there's such a terrible, the Democrats are in such terrible shape that they just care if he's a fighter. In fact, he's having a press conference today about what he's doing to fight Donald Trump using our taxpayer dollars. And we're just sick. Californians, I would say even many Democrats are very, very sick of his lack of performance. We have to live with his policies. There are people that have had, people think, oh, well, what about there's now they're going too strong on immigration and picking up people at Home Depot and whatnot. Listen, when you've had a friend or in your neighborhood get burglarized by illegal immigrant on a tourism visa, it becomes very real for you, and you fear for your kids' safety because of all of the terrible murders and rapes that have occurred. It becomes extremely real for you that these policies are misguided on the other side, and that our sanctuary cities are failing us. So, I just don't understand how Gavin Newsom, he's just going to do it on the fighting Trump theme. And, people need to wake up, and that's what my book is all about. It goes chapter and verse. It has exclusive after exclusive in this book that's gotten a lot of attention. Even the fact that he lied about how he got into college. It's a bit of athletic stolen valor. And he thinks they got on a baseball scholarship. This is, and he didn't. He wasn't on the JV team. He dropped out after a year. He had a minor scholarship, but it was all of his dad's connections that even got him into college. Even Jerry Brown, who's friends with his father, who was a former governor, wrote him a recommendation to get him into college. He never did, these things need to be exposed so you know what kind of person he is. This is a person that had an affair with his best friend and chief of staff's wife. I mean, I don't understand how that doesn't expose his character, why people are embracing him. I guess it just shows what kind of state the Democratic Party is in.
Yeah, and he's a guy that tries to claim like, oh, I was sleeping on couches. He was a poverty-stricken guy. Like he has this whole fake persona that he wants people to buy into. He's one of the worst, but I guess I don't know who else they're going to go with, because their bench is not deep. So somebody like him, it seems like to them a possibility or a hope, because I don't know who else emerges from the Democrats, but he's destroyed California. You cover it very well. Fool's gold. I got the link in the description down below so people can get over there and buy it. Get me out of here. What stories are you working on this week? What do you got coming up that we could be looking forward to here?
I'm trying to do a story about anti-Semitism and with these Jewish teachers in LA. So that's like a minor story. They're suing over how the union has treated them. That's just some sort of a minor story. I have some more Secret Service things to expose that you might shock you. And I'm working on the California governor's race now that Kamala Harris is out. What's left here and who are our worst? We have a terrible bench to choose from, and whether the Republicans can get their act together to challenge in an appropriate and aggressive way.
Yeah, I wish they had my man Larry Elder out there. What a mistake to not have him. He would be great for California. Anybody would be good for California if they could just finally vote red and see the changes it would bring. But Susan Crabtree, I got the link to your X account down there below, as well as Fool's Gold. I appreciate you taking the time. I'd love to have you on again down the line. Thanks for joining me on the AlecLace Show.
That's my pleasure. You're doing a great job, great questions, and thanks so much for your hard work.
All right, grateful to Susan Crabtree for giving me a few minutes of her time here. What did you guys think about the interview? Hit me with a comment down below. Give me your take. That was Susan's first time on the show. I would love to get her back on. I think she does great work. She's a great follow on X, so make sure you follow her. I got the link to her X account down there in the description below. And I thought that story was kind of crazy last week. You know, it just seems like that might just be like a little peek into what's really going on. You know, what are Secret Service agents? What are they getting away with? What are they? You know, what is the practices there? There's so many questions to be answered about the fumbles that went on in Butler, the ones that went on at Trump's golf course with the second guy to try to take him out, and you know, there should have been more people that paid a price for what happened, because that was a big letdown what happened in Butler. And again, we know more about the guy in New York than that did the shooting than we do know about Thomas Crooks or about Ryan Rout or whatever his name is. So appreciate her coming on the show here. Again, get her book, Fool's Gold. Got the link down there in the description below. And Gavin Newsom this guy is a polished politician. There's no question about it. He's somebody that I would say fits the suit, right? Like I always go back to that, like that Brady Bunch episode. If you ever watched the Brady Bunch with Greg Brady wanted to be a singer and thought he was going to be a singing star because this producer guy brings him into the studio, and then he listens to the record and he's like, wait, my voice is all changed. It doesn't even sound like me. And the guy's like, yeah, we don't care about that. You just fit the suit. We had this suit here that we need our singer to wear, and you fit it. And so they didn't really they just needed a vessel. They needed a person that fits the suit. And I think that Gavin Newsom fits the suit, right? I think that's why, I think in a similar way to Obama, like he has the ability to talk. He has the ability to debate. He has those qualities about him that is just that bullshit politician smell is what you get whenever you hear Gavin Newsom open his mouth. He's not a regular guy. He is a guy that seems like he's built in a factory for politicians. I mean, that's the way he comes off. He's got that political aura about him. He doesn't have like that. You know, he tries to pretend like he can connect to the regular American people. He doesn't. He doesn't make that connection. But he seems to be like one of the front runners of who they're going to go with. And it seems likely, he's going to make a run at it. I mean, that's for sure. He seems like he is a liable, a playable favorite to be the candidate, because he's certainly putting the work in right now where many others aren't. So we'll see where that takes him. But he's destroyed California. I don't know how he can stand on the record of California and be like, hey, look what I did in California. Your political record is in the toilet. And it's just like, this Charlemagne the God guy, President Donald Trump called this guy out for what he is. Yesterday, he put up a true social because this Charlemagne the God was on with Laura Trump. And he calls this guy a sleazebag. He's a racist sleazebag. Low IQ individual. So this Charlemagne the God, he's making the rounds right now. Fox News seems to want to bring him on too. And, it just seems like the guy is a bit of a fraud to me, because this is somebody who is very good friends with Kamala Harris. He campaigned hard for Kamala Harris, telling the people like, you should vote for Kamala Harris. Now you hear him talking about like how he's like, I don't think she would win in 2028. She says that she wants to step away from the system, but she's been in the system for her whole life and hasn't done anything. Yeah, well, why are you encouraging people to vote for her then? So I think this guy's whole character, there's something wrong with it. I think obviously he's an entertainer is what he does. and he's trying to fly with both sides of the fence. He's a Democrat, is who he is. He pumped up Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden told him that if you don't vote for him, you ain't black. He ate that comment and then did as he was told all of his listeners, vote for Joe Biden, told all of his listeners, vote for Kamala Harris. The Democrat Party, which has done absolute diddly for the black community, despite the fact that they have owned the black vote for decades, they have done nothing to help the black community. Yet you have shills like Charlemagne the God that continue to tell black people to vote for the same party that's giving you the same thing, no results year after year. But it's the truth. Kamala Harris has been in the system for a whole life, didn't do nothing. So you are the system. So what do you mean I'm stepping away from this? Joe Biden was in the system for 50 years. He did nothing to help the system. He is the system. That's who these people represent. Gavin Newsom is the system. And I don't care what anybody says. You know, people that are trying to take shots at President Donald Trump right now, as if there was somebody else that could get in there and do what President Trump has couldn't even sniff 10% of what Trump has done, could never withstand what President Trump has gone through. They could never walk that path. So you have people that shoot their mouths off about President Donald Trump and what he's doing, as if there's a candidate that you could get that's a regular guy, not a politician, never in politics in his life, walk in there and do what President Donald Trump has done. You couldn't find anybody that could even get close. They would have dropped out after the media backlash from his very first time doing the debates. They wouldn't have made it through all that. The way that the media completely turned on him. So President Donald Trump has done something that we won't see again for centuries. You won't see another candidate like Trump. Somebody that's been able to come outside the system completely and come in the system. And you see it because everybody in the system has attacked him from both sides of the party. And I know, and right now, one of the things too going on was the Israel-Hamas. That thing is, it's been going back and forth. There's people split between the conservatives, people split in the Democrat Party of what's going on with Israel and what's going on with the war and the whole bit. But one thing I wanted to point out, which I thought was wild to see yesterday, Dinesh D'Souza posted this out. I saw it. But you have this one oddity group, Queers for Palestine, right? And we see these flags, we see them marching and stuff like that, and it's like we always say, your queers are for Palestine. Palestine would throw you off a building. And here's this woman on TV yesterday, this Hamas TV, this woman here. Look at this beauty. I'll put her up there. Now, again, this is translated, so I won't play the video. But what she is saying is if you find men engaged in a homosexual act, kill the active one as well as the passive one. Don't just start acting, are you active or passive? Kill both. All right? She says the companions of the Prophet Muhammad unanimously agree that the homosexuals should be killed. They should be burned alive. So she goes on this whole rant. She says others say they should be thrown off a high place, followed by a stoning. This is all what they believe should happen to homosexuals. We regard to girls. People ask if the ruling applies to lesbianism. And so her response to that is the Islamic scholars have said unanimously that lesbianism is prohibited. Some say, I'm not a homosexual, I'm gay. She says, no, you're a sodomite, you're a lesbian. So basically what she's saying is they think you should be set on fire, thrown off a building, and stoned if you're gay or lesbian. But yet you have Queers for Palestine walking around like, oh, we love the Hamas people. And you can't make that up. So, you think they might want to broadcast that into the next queer meeting that they have or the next LGBTQ, party that they throw. You might want to play that video and see what you're looking at and then make a decision about the sign you're carrying. And make sure you never do it when you go over there. Never go over to Gaza and start carrying that sign around or Hamas or wherever the hell it is. All right. One of the other things I wanted to touch on here, two more things, and I'm going to get you out of here. One of them is Billy Joel documentary came out on HBO. And I'm a big Billy Joel fan, have been since I was a kid. And I know that he's a Democrat, although he's never really, as far as I know, have put politics into his. He's not like a Bruce Springsteen who's a total left-wing lunatic. He hasn't, been vocal about that stuff. So as far as I know, Billy Joel was just about rock and roll. Billy Joel was just, his music wasn't ever really political as far as, I knew. So the documentary I was interested in, and I was watching it, and I get to the part, and I couldn't believe that this happened. But as you're watching this, and Billy Joel obviously is Jewish, he talks about the Charlottesville incident and brings up the hoax about Trump saying that Nazis are good people, that there's good people on both sides. I could not believe that they were, and then he says, I couldn't believe that Trump said that. And then they play the clip, the one that just shows Trump saying you had good people on both sides. And then him saying he should denounce the Nazis and stuff like that. So I stopped watching the documentary. I was like, I can't watch this. Why in the world? This thing has been debunked so many times. And it's not an accident that HBO didn't do their fact-checking. HBO knows that President Donald Trump condemned the white nationalists during that speech that he made. They know it because it's been proven so many times. They do it intentionally. They put it in there intentionally so that they can subvert the minds of the people that are watching. And they can just keep throwing that propaganda out there. And it's a disgrace. And HBO should be ashamed of themselves. And Billy Joel should be ashamed of himself. Here's the clip of Billy Joel talking about it. And then I splice in a little bit of Joel and then give you the truth about what happened once again for the 100,000th time. Take a listen.
We fought a war to defeat these people. And then when Trump comes out and says, there were very fine people on both sides.
You had people that were very fine people on both sides.
He should have come out and said, those are bad people.
It all comes down to reality. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
And I don't know, did anybody ever show Billy Joel that clip? I would love to see somebody on the spot say, hey, Billy, take a look at this, because you talked about this in your documentary. This is what Trump actually said at Charlottesville. Does this change your opinion of him? What do you think? And here's Billy Joel. He's talking about wearing his Star of David. The Democrat Party has all but abandoned Israel completely. They're pro-Hamas. They're pro-Palestine on the Democrats. President Donald Trump, obviously, is a humongous supporter of Israel, and Billy Joel is denouncing him. So how does that even make any sense? How do you balance that off in your head? Oh, Trump's a Nazi who supports Jews. How does that make any sense to these idiots? So I would love for somebody like, in an interview or something to say, hey, Mr. Joel, by the way, did you know that this is the truth about that story that you put in your documentary? Did you know this? And if you did know it and decided to put it in, then that's even worse. But it's, again, HBO, they know the truth. And they decide to put it in because they hate Donald Trump. The Trump derangement syndrome wins every time. It doesn't matter what the truth is. Trump derangement syndrome beats it all. And that's what we saw in that documentary. So I had to stop it. Couldn't watch any more of it. It sucks because, that's what you hate about this stuff. They got to interject it. Just give us the documentary about the guy. You have to interject this propaganda into it. It's one thing if you're going to make an honest case, but you're going to come up with some nonsense that's been debunked 1,000 times. Disappointing. And then last thing I get on this note, you had the Hall of Fame inductions over the weekend, NFL Hall of Fame inductions. You had this guy, Jared Allen, get elected. And I thought what he said, you get some of these times you get great speeches. And I thought the way he put it was very powerful. And I wanted to kind of play it because I think it was important. So here's a piece from Jared Allen's Hall of Fame NFL induction speech. Take a listen.
To my amazing daughters, Brindley and Lakeland, through this process, the word legacy has been talked about a lot. The Hall often says they're here to tell my story. Well, I'm here to tell you two, you are my greatest accomplishments. When I get called home to heaven one day, if all they talk about is this gold jacket, my career, then I failed miserably as a father, a husband, and a friend. You two are my legacy. You are both so talented, and I cannot wait to see what you decide to do and to conquer this world. So always put Christ first, find your why, dream big dreams, and always pursue greatness in whatever you do. Thank you all, and may God bless you.
And I have found that with so many of the NFL guys that I have talked to, and I've interviewed hundreds of them, many Hall of Famers, I don't know, at least 50 NFL Hall of Famers, I would say. And when you get a chance to talk to them, that is the truth, that despite the fact that they've won Super Bowls, they hold records, they've done all these accolades, the real true feeling of accomplishment for them has come through being a father and being a family man. And I thought he captured it very well there, and it shows what it means to him, right, to be a dad. And I think that is the highlight we need to have so much more of these athletes that we love to showcase so much. And that was really a lot of the point of my first podcast, First Class Fatherhood, was to kind of show these guys in that light that, yeah, you want to be like that guy because he can sack people or he could throw touchdowns, but also look at how he is as a father. Like, that's how you want to be as well. Like, you want to kind of shift that narrative to, I want to be like him because he can throw touchdowns. I want to be like him because he makes money. Or I want to be like him because he's a great dad. I want to be like him because he's a good family man. And I think we need to showcase that more because we are desperate for it in this country, for male role models. We are dying for them, especially because you have so many kids that don't have that father in the home. And we have so many families that have been broken apart. And there's not enough emphasis. We look at it now, it's almost like a joke to get married, start a family, and have kids. There's so much pushback against it. And we want to encourage, especially the younger generation, to say, hey, look, here's other people that have done it, and look at what it means to them and their life. The narrative of being a father isn't like, oh, this is going to be a burden on my life. This is going to suck. It's going to actually be the greatest thing you ever do in your life. And so that is the message. I thought Jared Allen captured it very well. And I thought it was beautifully said. So I wanted to share that with you. I think the future is family, and I think things like that do matter, especially in our pop culture. And so wanted to share it with you. All right, that's what I got here for you guys today. I appreciate the Congressman, Tim Burchett, joining me on the show. Also, Susan Crabtree. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to follow, share the broadcast, share my socials with anybody in your network. Follow me over on X. I'm working on guests for Thursday. Make sure you follow me. I'll put them up there when I got them. And that's what I got for you guys. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you parents and you listeners out there. God bless our police, our first responders. God bless our military and our veterans. God bless America. And I will catch you guys on Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right back here on Rumble.
You're listening to the Alec Lace Show. The future is family.